I don't think he's ever found a project that he ever said no to. He just digs in there and finds it. He's the owner of Chino Hot Springs. He and his, he's the founder of Chino Hot Springs, I should say. I guess his employees actually own it, which is even more amazing. But he's done an amazing things with that hot spring since I first got involved back in the, I guess it was the early 2000s. But Bernie has been a geothermal person for a very long time, and he is carrying on with the Makushin Dutch Harbor geothermal plant, or hopefully to be a plant that's been out there talked about for years. And so I'm very excited to see what the progress is on this. And I know he's worked really hard at it. So Bernie, take it away.
All right. Hey, thank you, Bernie. And thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to be talking to you. We're going to give a little presentation, your slide presentation about the Makushin Geothermal project and sustainability for the future, what the Aleutians has to offer the state of Alaska. We believe that this will be the poster child for the world. So we'll, if you can give us the screen here, we'll start with a little vision video, and then we'll go right down to slide presentation.
Take it away.
Okay, a vision for sustainability in the Aleutians, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Video, please. Next slide. Just very quick. Technical difficulty. Here we go.
There you go. You're going to click the play down the lower.
Down there, right there, that little, there you go, little play. There you go.
So Bernie, we're not picking up your audio. Maybe
you can't hear the audio from the movie?
No.
Just a landscape. Wow. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see if we can fix it.
If you want to check under your speaker, click the up caret on the mute button and make sure the sound is same as system.
Caret on the mute button.
The lower, this is in the Zoom window on the lower left-hand side. There's a microphone icon that says mute underneath it. And there's a little up caret next to it. And then if you do same as system for audio.
Of the Aleutians bring us inspiration and connection.
That's good. We got it now.
Inspiration for the future potential in our communities and a connection to the bounty and geography of this land. But how do we create sustainability? Sustainable communities today have three pillars: economic security, ecological integrity, and social well-being. Those with a plan are most nimble to respond to the demands of global markets, technology, public policy, and climate. Unalaska is globally significant for its natural resources and its ocean pathway for cargo and people. So what if we created yet another significant reason to do business in and through Unalaska? Imagine a reliable and abundant source of clean energy and the economic possibilities that result. What if the Makushin volcano was tapped for its geothermal energy? We know that geothermal energy is an economic engine. It's proven. We've proven it. Renewable energy meets the green initiative goals of most companies and their capital investments going forward. Geothermal stimulates what previously was not economically viable, It makes year-round commercial greenhouses viable for local and surrounding industry distribution and consumption. It makes recreational hot springs. It makes showcasing of geothermal-based manufacturing a complement to a thriving tourism industry. It makes recycling, commercial dehydration, and future processing of Unalaska's bounty of seafood and medicinal plants economically viable. It makes alternative energy possible for transport, including public transport, electric vehicles, hybrid fishing vessels, and not too far in the future, cargo ships and airplanes. Demand for reducing one's carbon footprint and drawing down carbon will only increase opportunities for individuals, companies, and communities. Leadership in these initiatives has the potential to bring global attention for environmental programs and investment in the form of case studies, pilot projects, and collaborations. Mimic what nature is doing. Nature has no waste. God only created one mammal that deliberately destroys his environment and then denies it. I'm talking to us, man. But look at the opportunities with no waste. This involves reusing and recycling products and materials and employing regenerative natural systems. Dutch Harbor will be the first place in Alaska with zero waste, zero emissions, all from geothermal. Why is this important to Unalaska? Because the food, transport, and tourism industries are adapting their business models around these new zero waste systems. It is not a trend, it is a movement with scorecards published to their stockholders, customers, and community at large. Geothermal can be adapted for use in home heating systems with the potential to reduce air emissions. Geothermal energy can support a community growing its own nutrient-dense food, key to preventing and healing of chronic disease. Greenhouses serve a broad range of constituents and can be used as an educational platform, a social gathering place, a mental health retreat, or a center for food as medicine program. Students and classes can use it as a dynamic learning center for nearly every course in their curriculum, as well as special summer programs. Geothermal can serve as a trademark of our sustainable community and support a higher quality of life. Unalaska offers us bounty in the form of abundant oceans, lands, and energy. It is our home to make into a community where we want to live, the next generation to thrive, and the legacy of our collective vision. And we must decide on a sustainable path forward.
Next slide, please. Okay, so why Unalaska, Dutch Harbor? Well, because they have a volcano there. We have a 3-inch hole that's putting out 62,000 pounds of steam an hour at 397 degrees at 60 PSI, ran 34 days, and does not pull the surface pressure down at all in 34 days of open hole running. It's considered to be a mammoth in the geothermal industry. So we have a sustainable vision. Unalaska connects the world. It's the largest deep water fishing port in America. They ship 174,000 containers for Unalaska Dutch Harbor. 60% of all fish consumed in America come from one place, Unalaska Dutch Harbor. They've been taking 2 million metric tons of fish out of the Bering Sea for the last 40 years. It is sustainable. So next slide, please. So first thing we have to do is, the first idea is demonstrate geothermal energy potential on Unalaska, and that's what we're doing right now as we speak. Next slide, please. So the 3 pillars of sustainability: economic security, ecological integrity, and social well-being. We need all of those. That is what the future is. That's what we have to do to be a part of this global economy. We need to have those 3 pillars, and that's what we bring. Next slide, please. It's real simple. Somebody has to start. you know, and these are the three things that it takes. Geothermal energy is a proven economic engine, enabling green emissions, free commercial and industrial enterprises, social well-being. Geothermal energy can support a community growing its own food. You know, you can have your own hot springs and feeling secure in a carbon-free alternative transportation, energy transportation. Ecological integrity, reducing carbon footprint. There will be no diesel fuel being consumed. We will displace 19 million gallons of diesel fuel. That's why this is so important. And what you're doing with geothermal energy, you pay for all the fuel up front. Yes, it costs a little more to put it in, but do you want to be responsible? Now, industry knows what their energy costs are going to be for 30 years. Next slide, please. So the OC resource potential, 563 megawatts. It's huge. The illusion potential, 250,000 megawatts. We're on the ring of fire. We can produce enough energy on the ring of fire to take care of all the energy needs of the world. We are on a major sea route where right now 4,774 ships come by within 12 miles every year. We believe that we will become the fueling station of the future. Our geophysicist tells us that we can make 450 megawatts of power off of the 7,000 acres that we have over in Unalaska. We can make 450 megawatts for 500 years. USGS says we can make 1,000 megawatts for 1,000 years. Next slide, please. So over 50 volcanoes on the ring of fire that are all, we know where they're all at. And we are not producing from any of them. Shame on us. Next slide, please. So really, clearly demand for reducing one's carbon footprint is on increase. We are just gonna kick ass and get this done. You know, the resources there, it's what ecologically, it's what we need to do. It's what the whole world needs to do. Like I said, if we harness 2% of the Earth's energy, that's 1,000 times more energy that the world consumes. The only reason geothermal is not taking care of the whole world is because we're addicted to oil in one arm and we're addicted to greed in the other. Next slide, please. So, meeting our needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own. I honestly believe that, and I live and breathe it. Next slide, please. Economic security. Geothermal energy is a proven economic engine. Renewable energy meets green initiative goals of most companies. Geothermal stimulates what previously was not economically viable. And that is not trick photography. That lettuce is actually growing at Chena Hot Springs. We will be putting 40 acres, our second phase at Unalaska Dutch Harbor is 40 acres of greenhouses up on a 350-acre plateau, 1,100 feet up on the volcano where the power plant's at, turning out 240,000 pounds of food every day. We will become the food security for Alaska. Next slide, please. Yeah, well, I'm ahead of myself. It enables commercial greenhouses year-round, and it does. It's going to change the world. Unalaska Dutch Harbor will be the first place in Alaska with zero waste, zero emissions. That's what the world should strive for. Next slide, please. This is not trick photography. This is the tomatoes at Chena Hot Springs. Our tomato plants were 2 years old last month. Unheard of. We rerouted them after they got 100 feet long. We didn't slow up production. We think tomato plants can live to be 400 or 500 years old. That's not what the rest of the world believes, but that's what I believe. They're now over 2 years old. So I guess we can do it. Next slide, please. Not trick photography. Every 23 days, we pick a head of lettuce. Now we're experimenting growing 2 heads of lettuce together. So we'll call it lettuce alone, a wedding salad. And that lettuce will be served in a 32-ounce bowl. You'll have 2 heads of lettuce. And we have our own bees. We make our own honey walnut dressing. It'll be in this beautiful acrylic a bottle that looks like this beautiful lady. And when you pour that on your salad, it'll be called undressing. Next slide, please. So social well-being, you know, we're looking at putting heat pumps into every home. We did a heat pump study for $150,000. We know that we can put Samuel heat pumps in. You put 1 kW of geothermal energy and get 4.5 kW of heat out. There's no reason for any home or any business to burn diesel fuel again in Unalaska Dutch Harbor. So that's what we have to offer. Next slide, please. Did it switch? There you go. So why does it make sense to use geothermal power? Well, low carbon emissions. Next slide, please. Reduce your compliance, become emissions free. Support all of Unalaska's businesses to become sustainable and to allow for future growth. Next slide. Champion a new power system that will be reliable, stable, and have no unpredictable future energy costs, which is huge in this uncertain world of wars, an uncertain world of now inflation. Next slide, please. Unalaska is strategically located in the Aleutian chain. Next slide, please. Look how close we are. I mean, look at where we're located. I mean, all the ships come within, well, they actually will be coming in within 12 miles of Unalaska Harbor. Next slide, please. And the power plant is 14 miles away, and all of the permitting is in place. We have about 2.5 miles of utility access right-of-way built. The equipment is all on site. 2 camps are moved over there. We are well on our way. Next slide, please. We have the best business partners in the world. These are all the best people for doing this project. We put together what I think the premier team for making this happen. A lot of Alaskan companies in there. Next slide, please. So the permitting is all in place. Utility corridor, 2.4 miles built, financing. We're negotiating that as we speak. We're working with DOE under the Tribal Energy Loan Fund. And we have on the 28th, 29th, and 30th, we'll be going out to Unalaska Dutch Harbor with Alaska Energy Authority and ADA. And we will be meeting take them to the job site. We'll be meeting with the fish processors, with the city council, with the OC board, and with the Q tribe. Next slide, please. Air source heat pumps. We just briefly talked about them, but this is a real deal, and we've already done the study, and so this will become reality. Next slide, please. You can see the annual heating cost is absolutely going to go down, and with 0 emissions, and it'll be comfortable. I think that was the last slide. Back up one. Can you go up one? Back up one. I think back up one. There you go. How do you move forward? So yeah. I think back up. There we go. Now the next one. So diesel to geothermal, significant environmental benefits. Well, can you imagine not having to burn diesel fuel? And right now, you know, some of the power plants in Unalaska Dutch Harbor are old. Unisy is still running World War II engines, and we have a letter of commitment from them. I was told that we'll be getting a letter of commitment very shortly from Trident Seafoods. I talked to their owner, Joe Bundren, and we feel very confident that this is the way of the future. The machine you're seeing right there is the one that is running at Chena Hot Springs as we speak. Next slide, please. So, Makushin Geothermal project will drastically reduce CO2 island emissions. It will replace city and fish processing diesel-fueled electric power systems. Will replace all city buildings with air source heat pumps. Next slide, please. In total, this project could potentially reduce yearly island hydrocarbon emissions by 13 million gallons of diesel fuel, 2,563 tons of NOx, 83 tons of PM10, and 147,708 tons of CO2 per year. It'll be the cleanest community in Alaska. So you go from smokestacks to zero emissions. Isn't that where we want to be? I mean, isn't that why we were put on this world, to make it a better place to live? Next slide, please. So our vision is to harness the volcano, and once we complete that project, we're looking at Akutan and then Adak Islands. We've already talked to both of those places. Finally, Aleutian volcanoes, more than any other place on Earth, are tapped for large-scale industrial businesses, such as, green hydrogen. That is the fuel of the future, and maybe some smelting of ore. All the ore goes right by there, and it goes either to Vancouver or over to Europe to be smelted. We're going to have 2,000 tons a day of ore coming out of Fairbanks, Alaska, and it's going to go to Europe. It could stop right there and be turned into something. And then eventually, 11 commercial business ventures, our vision with numerous OCCP, 30 megawatt sized power plants are much larger for heavy use. It's unbelievable what is possible out there for investment. And moving this a bit further, Chena Hot Springs is putting in the first manufacturing plant off of geothermal, and we'll have it operational at our energy fair for August the 13th. We've invested in 10 laser jet printers, 10 laser jet cutters, a huge laser jet table that will cut up to 1-inch iron, and we're going to make about 900 line items that we sell now at Chena Hot Springs. All of our material that we sell comes from China, or it comes from Pakistan, India, or it comes from Vietnam. We're going to make all those products in Chena Hot Springs, Alaska, made from love from above. Chena Hot Springs, Alaska. All products made from renewable energy, made in Alaska. We believe it's going to just take our market share and truly increase it. Alaskan labor, Alaskan energy, renewable energy, and products all made here. That same vision can easily happen. We're talking no smokestack. That same vision could happen for Unalaska Dutch Harbor, and we could ship hundreds of containers or thousands of containers every year down to America with all products that come from China. Think about that a minute. That's where we're heading when you have reasonably priced energy for the next 400 or 500 years. Next slide, please. So I hope you enjoyed the vision of sustainability and the Aleutians. I will answer any and all questions. So I hope we can have some dialogue here, and we are pleased to share this information with anybody and everybody.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Bernie. What a great presentation and very fascinating vision. We will go into question and answers for our guests online with us. You can put your question into the chat, if you would, for me, and I'll relay it to Bernie. But we do ask our co-chairs to start us off. And so I'm going to turn to Bernie Smith for starting off the question and answer. Go ahead, Bernie.
Yes, Bernie Karl. Great presentation and a super good vision. You just covered so many things that can help Alaska. So I'm truly impressed, which I always have been. So right now the legislature has a geothermal bill, House Bill, I think it's 74, that just made it out of one committee. I think it's going to the next committee, and it sounds like it actually has a way to get actually approved this session. Even though you have already got your permits done and some of your financing done, does this bill help you at all if it does get passed?
The bill doesn't help us, but it sure helps future development.
Right.
And I would just like to go on the record as saying that the governor wants to be the renewable energy governor. And I believe he's making steps to do that. So kudos to the governor, because I can honestly say he's the first governor that is in my time that is moving that direction. So I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased that he actually is the one that actually put that legislation forward. And it really is going to be, I mean, it can really help the future. Like I said, if we harness 2% of the Earth's energy, that's 1,000 times more energy than the world consumes. And it's really a shame that we burn, CH1 through CH6. They're the building blocks for 98% of all chemicals in the world. So we should take a hug from the earth, and Alaska should lead the world in clean manufacturing. We should be the ones that manufacture all of the future for the world. We should do it here. With all the highest and best paid jobs in the world should be in Alaska. We need to lead this parade. We need to lead the parade, and Alaska needs to invest more in Alaska. We need to believe in ourselves, and we need to lead this parade and not follow.
Great.
Totally agree. All right. Also, just as a follow-up on that, I just saw an article about a week ago that the Western states are really pushing geothermal from Colorado. NREL is doing some really pushing to try to get the permitting down, costs down, the drilling costs down. So geothermal is on the headlights right now, which is very, very good, because I agree. In the long term, it's one of the more cheaper energies and zero emissions that's out there right now. So have you followed what's going on in the rest of the Western states, or are you just particularly involved with just Alaska?
No, actually, I follow geothermal all over the world, and I've actually been to Colorado as a guest speaker several times trying to get them to have a geothermal power plant. So I've spent a lot of time in the Western states talking to people about what they should do. And it looks like, you don't know if they listen or not, but it looks like some of them are now.
Good.
You have to plant the seed. On a long journey, someone has to take the first step. So I've always been on a long journey.
Thank you, Bernie.
Okay, thanks, Bernie Smith. And Bernie Karl, we have a couple questions in chat for you. Alexa Van Eaton is online with us, and she's asking, are there any plans for construction or road building directly on Makushin this summer?
Well, we're not, our permit won't allow us to build a road, to build a utility access right away. So we don't like to use the word road because then we'll be totally out of compliance. But we are, because we are a utility and we fall under a national permit, under the Corps of Engineers. So we're building a utility access right away. And yes, we anticipate, we would like to finish the road this summer. We're working diligently on getting that financing put together. And that's the main reason that we're taking AEA and ADA out there. We're going to actually go to the job site. They're going to see what we have built. They're going to meet with the city, meet with all of the interested parties to make sure they feel comfortable in working with us. So that's the main reason we're taking them there. We are working diligently with the DOE on the rest of the funding, and we feel very confident we're going to get the funding. Is it simple? No, it's not simple. If it was simple, this would have been done, 40 years ago. Yeah.
So, Bernie, with the work with AEA and ADA, are you modeling that on some of their similar projects where they're actually the owner of the transportation or access corridor and the entity leases it back?
We had suggested them, we had suggested to them that they would own the project. That did not, they're not interested in that at this time. In 1995, this project was going to be built by Alaska Power Authority at that time, and they were going to fund the whole project and own it. And Ormat was going to build it, same format that we signed a EPC contract with Ormat on the 17th day of January. They are the EPC contractor. They're in 65 countries, 2,000 megawatts they have built. They're Israelis, so this machinery will be built in Israel. They own 1,000 megawatts of geothermal themselves. So the state originally was going to fund this project. At that time, Ormat had some financial problems in 1995, and they filed bankruptcy, and the state backed out. There's been 412 reports done on this project, and Alaska Power Authority has spent a fortune on this project over the years. There was actually $5 million invested in 1983, 1984, drilling 4 wells there. And then they hit the, under ST1 well, they hit the giant, the dinosaur.
Great. Well, Jim Strandberg is on with us, and he's asking if you've drilled at the site to confirm the presence of geothermal resource for the proposed power plant site. So have you characterized the resource?
No, that's a good question, Jim. Our goal is to finish the access right away this year. My goal, I'm a little ahead of the rest. My goal is, we have a top drive drill rig that we own. My goal is to get that drill rig up to the job site at the end of November, 1st of December. We figured out, even though it's winter over there, winter's not near as bad as it is in Prudhoe Bay, I can tell you that. And so our goal, our timeline is that we'd be drilling over there in 2024 to meet our schedule, meet the power. We have a power purchase agreement with the city, and to meet that power purchase agreement, I would like to be ahead of that schedule a little bit. So that's my goal, but we're still in the perimeters of making everything work.
Okay, thank you. Alan Bailey is on with us, and he's asking, how do you see the economics and practicalities of shipping green hydrogen to market, presumably from Alaska?
Say that again, please.
How do you see the economics and practicalities, sort of the distribution, logistics and practicalities of shipping green hydrogen to market?
Well, we applied to become a hydrogen hub, and our teaming partners were Plug Energy, and Jacobs Engineering, and the LU Corporation, and OC, and CP. And we put together a great proposal. We were not selected to go on to the next on the next area. So all of with the government giving a hand, we were going to be able to deliver to 190 villages, 190 villages of liquid hydrogen, and not be any more expensive than diesel fuel, but do away with all diesel generators and put in fuel cells. They're all built in America from Plug Power. Plug Power is still very interested in doing something, and we will still become a hydrogen hub. We're just going to have to do it without federal money, and it has to do with politics. We're just not a big enough area to do it, although there is a study done that said that Unalaska Dutch Harbor should be a hydrogen hub. And we believe that even in our time, we're going to build a small hydrogen plant as soon as we'll have to build it out of cash flow. So we'll have to wait until we have our power plant finished selling power, and then we'll move on to the next phase. But hydrogen does make sense. It makes economic sense. And we should start right with the fishing fleet, because they're all based there. And usually the furthest run from there is 3 days. They will no longer have to worry about a diesel engine. A lot of them are electric drive anyway. So now you put the fuel cell in there, and it gives off heat and fresh water. And they need fresh water, and they need heat. So a fuel cell is running at 60% thermal efficiency, 60% with 0 emissions. It's insane not to go that way. Hydrogen is the fuel of the future, and Alaska needs to be a huge part of that. We need to be a huge part of that future. And Unalaska Dutch Harbor should help lead that parade.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think it's very difficult for many Alaskans, if they've never been to Alaska, to really conceive of the level of industrial development that exists there, the level of industrial activity with boats coming and going, the processing plants working, the level of employment there. All of those things are very uncharacteristic of most Alaskan communities, even where there is a very solid economic base. So, and Alaska is unique in Alaska. Bernie, Steve Grabacki's online with us, and he's just making a comment that he worked on the Makushin Geothermal project back in the early 80s, and when APA was still the lead agency, and just is noted that he was disappointed when the APA lost interest, citing the economics of the project. And he's just added that he's delighted to see progress being made on the project again. And, you know, you've talked about your 3 pillars. So how do you see that the economics have changed maybe since the 80s and now, why making the project more viable at this point in time?
Well, what's happened is that there's really no stability in fuel prices. And so right now, when we're selling the power to Unalaska Dutch Harbor at 16.3 cents. And I just paid my electric bill yesterday over there, and I'm paying 45 cents for electricity. So when we did the economics, it took us 8 months to negotiate a power purchase agreement. This is the first power purchase agreement that's been negotiated and been signed in 40 plus years. So that's number one, to get that done. And it was based, they hired a firm that's very good at doing all of this engineering for the future. And they estimated that fuel was going to be $1.39 a gallon 30 years from now. Well, that's why we're at 16.3 cents. That's avoided fuel cost. Well, their fuel is 3 times that right now. So he was wrong on what the price of fuel is going to be. And I don't think there's ever going to be $1.39 fuel again, personally. But that's the number he could justify. So that's the number we went with, reluctantly. But it's always been from the very start that the chairman of the Unalaska Native Corporation, Vince Tulikoff, he wants to do something. This is his last big project. He wants to leave something for the future. So he wanted to give the right price to everybody there. It wasn't about becoming the richest corporation in Alaska. It was about being a corporation that made a good profit for its shareholders, but did the best for his community and for his future and his grandkids and their grandkids' future. So we separated need from greed. There's no greed been involved in this power purchase agreement. That's what makes us different than anyone else, separating the greed. In life, there's a lot of greed that goes into these projects. It makes every project fail before it ever starts. So that's why it's happening now.
I'm gonna jump forward to a question from Jeremy Vandermeer. What is the PPA price that you've negotiated?
16.3 cents per kW.
Okay, all right. Jessica Larson is on with us, and she's asking about, you know, your slides say 50 active volcanoes in the Aleutians. I used to work for the Southwest Alaska Municipal Conference, and at least in terms of the comprehensive economic development strategy for the region, we always used to say 81 historically active volcanoes, meaning active within the last 100 years in the region. But either way you cut it, 50, 81, however many, it's a lot of geothermal potential in the region. But Jessica is asking, with the historically active volcanoes, what are your plans for mitigating the risk from seismic and volcanic hazards?
Well, you know, historically, there's a lot of data that's available. And most all of the volcanoes have been studied, you know, tremendously. I mean, Makushin has over 100 monitoring stations on it that are monitored daily by the volcano laboratory. So I've been to Iceland and I've looked at what they do. I mean, they're setting on their whole country's nothing but a volcano, and they build things so that they can withstand, you know, a volcano. Unalaska, we're going to do the same thing. One of the main reasons we chose Ormat is they have a 30 megawatt power plant net running right now at Puna, Hawaii, and the volcano shut them down because the well field was covered under about 10 or 12 feet full of lava. So they were shut down just for several months. They finally got the well field opened up again. They found out the wells are putting out twice as much energy as when they started. So now they're increasing the field to another 30 megawatts. So just the opposite of what anybody thinks. And so we feel very confident that, you know, we've hired the right firm, we're doing the right engineering, we're going to build it so that if there is a volcanic eruption, you know, there's a damn good chance we'll still be in business. Now, that volcano hasn't erupted in quite a few years. We don't anticipate that it's going to happen anytime soon. Could it happen? Yes. Yes, but you can walk across the street and be killed by a car too. Does that mean, we're doing an educated risk. We're educated on doing this. Is there risk? Yes, but there's a lot of risk in life. So are we willing to accept some of that risk? Yes. I'm really hoping that AIDA and AEA see it the same way as I see it. You know, and maybe they won't. And maybe no one else will see it that way. But I believe they will, because we have proof that Iceland has, they're on top of a damn volcano and they're making energy. They're 100% on renewables, between, you know, 20% geothermal, 80% hydro. Think about that. They have an aluminum smelter running right downtown Reykjavik with 0 emissions. The largest aluminum smelter in the world. Why? Because they're buying power for less than 2 cents. Less than 2 cents. They're bringing bauxite ore all the way from Australia, halfway around the world, bringing it to Iceland, unloading it, these giant vacuum cleaners, and that ship gets loaded back up with a finished product. That's what could happen in Unalaska Dutch Harbor. You can come there empty and we can load you with something that's manufactured with renewable energy, keeping all the high-paid jobs in Alaska. You want to create industry, you want to create wealth. There's only 2 ways. You either grow it or you mine it. There is no other way to create wealth. You either grow wealth or you mine it. We're going to do both there. We're going to grow it with 40 acres of greenhouses, 240,000 pounds of food a day, and we're going to mine it. We're going to mine the hot water and turn it into hydrogen and electricity, manufactured products, and fish, and sell them all over the world.
Okay. Hey, Jim Strandberg's back with another question, and can you say a little bit about how you talked about Unalaska Corporation, and you've got a joint venture of, can you talk a little bit about what your organizational structure for developing the project is, and how many folks you're currently employing directly?
Directly, we have about 8 employees directly employed. When we're in the peak of construction, it goes up to 140 on site, 140-man camp that'll be on site. The drilling is going to take, it's American Drilling out of Kenai that'll be doing the drilling, and they'll have a crew of about 20 people. 2 towers, they'll be running 24 hours a day, about 10 persons per tower. And so that's all in the works. And the organization with Unalaska Native Corporation and China Power, Unalaska Native Corporation owns 51% of the operation. China Power owns 49%. China Power is an ESOP, as Bernie Smith quoted. It's owned by the employees. My wife died 3 years ago of ALS. I don't know if you know what that is, but God wanted her in heaven. So we've been an ESOP, and it's going to be good for the employees in the long term. And that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I can't remember. I don't know if Tom Barrett's still online with us, but we were having that conversation about what's the longevity for some Alaska companies where second generations don't want to take over the family business. But the ESOP structure seems to be working for a number of homegrown businesses. So that's great to hear that you've already put that in place. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming up from the chat, but Bernie, I have a question for you in terms of, are there any other policy hurdles, regulatory hurdles, things that may be barriers to the development of the project that you'd like either state or federal government to look at to make the glide path to development a little bit easier for projects like yours?
No, actually, we don't see. We've actually worked through the permitting quite nicely, and I think it's. I think the permitting goes fairly well. You just have to have a really intelligent people and firms working with you, and I think we were blessed with hiring good people, good firms, and we could answer all of the Corps' questions and the state's questions. And as an example, Fish and Game asked us recently. We have our permits from Fish and Game, and we wanted to put some culverts in, and they said, well, we really don't like culverts. And here's the reason why: this, and this. We're gonna to do that. For you to put in culverts in, you'll need to do a 2-year study, of studying the flow and studying the fish for 2 years. I said, well, what if we didn't put the culverts in? They said, well, then we can give you a permit. So we chose to put 11 bridges in instead of putting culverts. And I got to tell you, it was the right decision. And let me tell you why. We took Fish and Game over there, and I helped them. They put these little traps in to catch fish. And I would have bet $1 million there wouldn't be fish in this little bitty stream that, has 6 inches of water in it. And wrong. We caught 500 fish in about 4 hours. So I was wrong. They were right. There's a reason they don't want culverts. And they just happen to be right. So is it going to cost us a little more to put the bridges in? Yes. But 2 years and have them happy. So then, just recently, they took some aerial shots, and someone over and looked at things. And they said, hey, you have an oxbow in the Makushin River that's cutting away at the bank. And, that's going to be into your right of way, and it's going to be messing up what you're doing. It's going to be into your road. We recommend, you don't have to do this, but we recommend that you dig that out. You put a 2-to-1 slope. You put a riprap in there of 200 pounds and greater, and you line the bank, and then you plant willows. Well, it's done. We went over and did it just a couple weeks ago. Why? Because we take what now we didn't have to do it, but you understand, it's probably going to help us in the future. And they asked us as a suggestion. We didn't need a permit because we weren't putting any rock in the waters of the United States. So by taking their suggestion, we were able to move the project forward. That's not going to be a hindrance. And every time they have a little opportunity, they told us, hey, you have a rock slide here where some of the rock went into the river. We would like that removed. The very next day, we're out there by hand, picking the rock out of there, showed them that it was done. This was then the very next morning. We are on site doing this. We're very proactive. And I think that more companies need to be proactive when they're dealing with government people, and you'll get a lot more done. That's been our experience.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to call on Bernie Smith now to do the Bernie sign off with both of you. And again, thanks. And here's Bernie Smith.
Yeah, Bernie, this has been great to hear you and see how far you've progressed with this project, and your enthusiasm is just it's unbelievable. And you got me all excited again, which you've done before. And I was involved back when I was working with AEA with Accutan and Sparky Wilson, who had basically the same kind of a vision that you have as putting a geothermal plant there in Accutan, and putting a hydrogen depot out there as the ships come back and forth. So I'm glad to see his vision is being carried out by you, and the best to you, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. All right. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. I have put in chat, we do have a program coming up March 22nd, Reporting Alaska. We have a large panel of editors, publishers, and reporters who will be joining us to take a look at the role of media, particularly with regard to helping to shape public opinion and helping us deal with some of our social well-being at this point in time to reach consensus on some of the most important issues in our state. And that'll be, again, Wednesday, March 22nd at the Petroleum Club. And the link is in the chat. Watch your email. And I have put in the chat earlier also the link to the Energy Policy Study Group webpage, where the recording of today's session and Bernie's slide deck will be available to you. And with that, I wish everybody a happy weekend. Thanks again to.
Could I ask one favor?
Sure, absolutely.
Would it be possible to get a letter of support for this project from Commonwealth North that we could give to DOE and give to ADA and AEA and give to the governor, because we don't have our funding finished yet. We're well along the way, but a letter of support from an agency, from a group that has the clout that you have could be very helpful. Okay, well, I'll ask Bernie as one of our board members present to help me present that to the board at our next meeting, and also on March 22nd. So we'll make that request of the board. Okay, with that, again, thanks to everybody. Thanks, Bernie, Karl. Thanks to your staff for helping out. And thanks, Bernie Smith. And hopefully everybody has an opportunity to get out and enjoy the beautiful sunshine in Anchorage. And hopefully the sun is shining everywhere else in Alaska. And the winds aren't quite so harsh. And well, if you haven't been to Fairbanks, to go to the International Ice Carving Competition, it's finished and it's at the fairgrounds, and it is spectacular. It's just spectacular.
Yeah, it's always fantastic. Thanks for mentioning that. Okay, everyone, have a great weekend. We'll see you again next time, and appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you so much.